Test, test, test. What's up, Beast Mode? Thanks for joining. Should have some more people filtering in here shortly. All right, guys, can someone just give me a voice check in the NFL Fantasy channel? Make sure that I'm sounding good, and then we could get started here. Perfect. I think we're good. Everything looks good on my end. I see Fletch just joined. Fletch, can you give me a mic check to make sure I'm sounding okay in the Discord? Oh, nice. I see McBobo and Michael have joined us. How you guys doing this morning?
Good, good. How are you?
Good, man. Good. And how about you, Michael?
Fired up for football.
Yeah,
Hey.
yeah. Yeah,
I'm
let's
here
get
in
it.
Baltimore. We got a little drizzle.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
that
gonna
was
stay on the weather for you guys.
appreciate that. Yeah, Michael is in Baltimore. I think someone had posted something about the weather last night. Let me see if I can scroll up to that really quick. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, you should definitely get in our Discord. It's good for the live stream. It's more interactive, and we got conversations going all day, picks, discussions. So I think it's a lot of fun. I can't find this, and for the sake of our viewers, I'll get off that. So looks like we got enough people filtering in now, so we can go ahead and get started. Stank, are you here? Is your mic on? I believe Stank is good to go. So if you want to talk, you're absolutely welcome to, but no pressure at all. I believe East of Ethan. Let me get you live stream access if you want it. If you guys want to jump on it and discuss with me, like McBobo and Michael, you're more than welcome to. But I did just want to cover this. I mistakenly I misspoke. We were talking about Washington defense, which if you're playing DraftKings has been a topic of discussion the whole week because they're very clearly the best defense play on the slate. Now, the reason that you wouldn't want to play them, you can see them here. Even though they're 2,800 and like the 12th or 13th most expensive defense, they're projecting the best. Now, the reason that you wouldn't want to play them is because, at least in certain tournaments, like if you're playing cash games, you absolutely need them. But for tournaments, defensive scoring is so volatile, it's so random that to play into that sort of ownership, you can see almost 30% ownership, and this is for tournaments. To play a 30% owned defense, it is kind of negative EV, and typically you don't want to do it at that percentage. Now, of course, there's different ways to go about it. The other thing is I misspoke in the Discord. I was saying that it was an afternoon game, or I'm sorry, a later game, but it's actually in the morning. So what you can do is by not playing Washington defense, you can play another defense and figure out in those early games whether you have an advantage or not. So let's say Washington defense scores this 8 points, but you play the Packers defense, who end up scoring like 1 or 2 more points than them. Well, now you're ahead of the field. You're ahead of a large portion of the field. And if one of these defenses, scores 5, 6, 7 more points than Washington, that's the one you're going to want because everyone else is going to be lesser owned than them. So I figured that was a good starting point for the slate because obviously defense has been a hot topic. I see Nate and BD in here. Go ahead and say what's up, guys, if your mic is working. All right, no dice. Let's get to McBobo. McBobo, do you have Well, let's start at quarterback. Are you playing daily fantasy today, McBobo?
Yeah, yeah, I am. Right now for quarterbacks, I'm kind of bouncing around. I know Kirk Cousins is going to be pretty well owned, but I do like the spot and I like that hookup with Justin Jefferson. Um, Outside of that, though, I do like. I'm going with some Trevor Lawrence. I do like his potential this year. I love what he was doing in the playoffs last year. I thought that he's about to take that next step and go to that next echelon of quarterback. So I really like his upside today. I don't really think very much of AFC South teams outside of Jacksonville. I think they'll run through Indianapolis pretty easily. So.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think Trevor Lawrence is in a great spot. You mentioned the Cousins ownership too. Quarterback ownership tends to get spread out a little bit, so it's one of the positions that I'm actually okay playing into into the more owned guys. And as you can see here, we have a Justin Herbert with the most ownership on the slate. Makes sense. He projects well and in a really good matchup with the highest total on the slate. You can see a 51-point total. But yeah, I like both of McBobo's calls there, Kirk Cousins and Trevor Lawrence. As you can see, I put the little fire emoji next to the quarterbacks that I personally think are the best. Now, I posted a stack spreadsheet in the Discord under the free spreadsheets channel. That's everyone that I think is every quarterback and stack that I think is viable on today's slate. And then for this, I've even narrowed it down even more. Like I took off Joe Burrow, and that's not to say anything against Burrow. I actually think Burrow, if there wasn't any injury concern, I would be more into him. I just think on the road in Cleveland, and the injury concern, like all of those things together make me like the players around him a little bit more. It's not necessarily that I dislike Burrow. It's more so that I can pay down, get a better game environment, and not have injury concerns with guys like Herbert, Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Kirk Cousins, Geno, Watson. So those guys are cheaper, and some of them even project better. So yeah, that's kind of my feelings on quarterback there. Let's get someone else in here. Michael, I know your mic is working. Oh, and I see Stank. Michael, I'm going to put you on hold for a second. I see Stank. His mic is lighting up. How you doing, Stank?
Not too bad. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Woke up.
Yeah, thanks.
Had to wait for my
us.
morning coffee. Otherwise, I would have been here like 5 minutes before. But
all good.
We're good.
I got mine rolling too. So, Stank, while we're on the topic of quarterbacks, do you have anyone that you like better than the rest?
I was gonna kind of add on to what you were saying about Joe Burrow. I think everything you were saying about him kind of makes me want to play him more.
Gotcha.
I just think he's going to be coming. He's going to come. And I like his stacking options. I like Jamar Chase, obviously, and a bring back with Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, totally. Sorry, I think my my camera just went off here for a second. Hold on.
But I wouldn't say that's a cash play for sure. I think you got to be looking at like Lamar, Herbert.
Gotcha. Yeah. The sorry about that. I just had a little bit of technical difficulties, but no, I think that's a great point, and something I should mention too. That's the things that I'm saying are just my personal opinion. Stank brings up a good point about Burrow. Burrow, we know, has one of the highest ceilings on any slate that he's on. And if people have the same sentiment as me, where they're a little bit nervous either about the game environment or the injury, then it makes complete sense to sort of play into that. And we know Burrow, even with those things that I mentioned, can still go off in any game. So it's not to say that you can't play Burrow. That was more so just my opinion, and I'm happy to hear that Stank has a differing opinion, because I think that that makes for a better discussion for sure. So I think my screen went off. I'm sorry, guys. Let me get that back up here. There we go. All right, perfect. Well, let's Nate, I see your name popping up too. Do you have anything else you'd like to add as far as quarterbacks go? Maybe someone we didn't mention, or someone that you're liking above the rest of the field. Nate, can you hear me? Don't think Nate's with us. Sorry about that, guys. So let's move on to running back here, and we'll go to Michael because I know I put him on hold there. Michael, is there any running backs that you particularly like this week?
I really like Tua this week. I'll get you to running back, but
Okay,
I feel like this is prime to one of. If you think the over hits, unless you think like Mostert gets in, I don't know how Tua doesn't have 3 tubbies.
Yeah,
and
that's a
I
good
don't know
point.
how they don't all go to Durham Smythe.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Don't laugh
Everyone's,
at him. Don't laugh at him. He told us the truth last time. All
And
right,
that-
he told us the truth. We laughed then, and see where we got then.
yeah, no, that's very true, very true. And I actually think it's actually a solid take. I think Tua is from the guys like in his area might be the lowest owned. You can see the projected ownership right here. It's going to be about half the ownership of Herbert, even though I think that should be more even. And I really think it just comes down to their projections. Like Herbert is going to project more, so naturally people are going to play that more. And then Durham Smythe, actually not a bad call either when you consider Hayden Hurst, Isaiah Likely, and Luke Musgrave are going to get a ton of the ownership, especially Likely and Musgrave at the tight end position. Smythe, you can see less than 1% in a game environment that is very, very inviting. I actually don't hate that call. So yeah, the Tua
That's
to Durham
interesting.
Smythe connection gets the stamp of approval from Michael. So
I'm different. Yeah, I'm different.
absolutely. So Michael, while we got you here, is there what about running backs? Is there anyone that you're really liking?
Let me check my one entry for $3 to see what I have. I like
All right.
Aaron Jones. I feel like
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like they lean on the veteran in an environment. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they unleash Jordan Love, especially with all the wide receivers hurt. I could see Aaron Jones getting a lot of work.
Yeah.
Safety
What do you
valve,
think
right?
about that?
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and I think McBobo just said it right there. Yeah, safety valve, especially when the Packers don't have.
Check down, check down.
Yeah, absolutely. And Aaron Jones splits without. I know this is going back a couple years, but Aaron Jones splits without Devontae Adams when he was there in Green Bay were always really, really good. And then you consider today that their wide receiver core is very weak with no Christian Watson. Dobbs is not looking like he's going to be 100%. I think he's expected to play, but not going to be 100%. So really, Aaron Jones is by far and away the best offensive skill player that they have, and it makes sense that they would utilize him a lot. Now, the only thing I will say is that game environment is disgusting. It's got a 41.5 point total. It's in Chicago, outdoors, so the game environment is not great, and I think that's why you're seeing Aaron Jones with kind of muted ownership relative to where his projection is. You can see that he's kind of projecting above everyone else in this range, and typically that would come with greater ownership, but I think that game environment is sort of keeping ownership in check there. McBobo, what do you think? You got any other running backs you'd like to throw in the ring?
I know I'm stacking in a little bit. Let's see, with Jacksonville running back there, but I don't have a lot of strong leans. I know I do like a little bit of Joe Mixon. I think he gets a good workload here today, and he does get out there for some pass catching. So I'm hoping he gets a couple catches and gets fed the ball enough that he's able to produce, maybe get a touchdown here.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to what I was talking about with Burrow, if you're concerned with the Burrow injury like I am, it's totally possible that since he comes out with either a more run heavy approach or they take it from the sense where they're going to try to get the ball out of Burrow's hands quickly, and that could lead to check downs for Mixon. As you can see, Mixon, similar to Jones, we have him projected kind of the best in that range of running backs. And again, kind of muted ownership. 12% is not bad for how long or for how much he's projecting for. So I think that's a good call by both McBobo and Michael. I like both of those guys. Let's see here. I want to get some other people involved here, either Stank or Skimbo, BD. Let me know if any of your guys' mics are on, and then I can get to you.
Stank's here.
Stank, that's right. I forgot. There's so many people. I kind of forgot that you were already on, so my bad.
No problem.
Do you have any running backs that you'd like to add on to our discussion here?
I mean, I see you put the fire emoji on Joe Mixon. I kind of like the other side. I like Nick Chubb. He's going to be way less owned than Eckler and probably McCaffrey, right, up in that range.
Yeah.
I think it's a good leverage spot for him, and it's a high total. It's like, 47? So I think game environment's good there. But obviously that's just getting leverage off Eckler. Eckler's a smash play.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I'm glad that Stank mentioned Chubb, because Chubb is one of those guys that he's never going to project super well just because he's not involved in the pass game, especially relative to the guys like right in his price range, like McCaffrey and Eckler. But one thing that either modeling or projections or, whatever the case is, whatever you use, those things really struggle to capture Chubb's upside, because a lot of Chubb's upside comes through volume and touchdowns, and you can't project a guy for 2 touchdowns. You just can't do it. So Chubb is one of those guys who can easily, have 20 carries for 100 yards and get in the end zone twice. And if he does that, he's likely going to be the highest scoring running back. And you could see at like criminally low ownership. So Chubb is always one of those guys that it's like, well, he doesn't project that well. There's a reason for that, and a lot of it stems from his lack of passing game ability, not ability, but just how much they use him in the passing game. But there's also merit to, him maybe being used more in the passing game, because they no longer have Kareem Hunt. Really, they only have Jerome Ford behind him and Pierre Strong, I believe. But neither of those guys are as good of a running back as Nick Chubb. So it's possible we see a ton of Chubb today. And yeah, I think that's a great call, especially in tournaments with this 6% ownership. Now, he is expensive, so it gets it does get a little pricey there. But if you're already paying up for Eckler, Nick Chubb at less than a third of the ownership is really intriguing. So I think that's pretty decent for running backs there. Does anyone else? Skimbo, we haven't gotten you in. Are you here? Is your mic on?
Yeah, I just woke up.
Okay.
Good morning, guys.
Well, hey, good morning.
Good morning, honey.
I know that Skimbo is a West Coaster like me, so you got to cut us a little bit of slack. It is pretty early here. I know I got up at 5:30, and it was one of those things where my alarm was going off, and I felt like I was in a dream where my alarm was going off, and so it was a bit of a trip to wake up this early on a Sunday morning, but here we are. So Skimbo, good morning, and before we move on to wide receivers, is there any other running backs you'd like to discuss?
My favorite running back, is Lamar Jackson. I should really get it done on the ground today.
He's got it.
Lamb Jack.
Lamb Jack.
Yes. Lamb Jack.
I haven't really had much time to look into it, but
if you had, you probably would have
From the
seen,
hips, honey.
if you had time to look into it, you might have noticed that Lamar Jackson is actually listed as a quarterback.
Really?
I know that's probably news to you, and you're just waking up, so it's probably a little confusing. But no, great call. We do expect Lamar Jackson to do a lot of running today. So
give me the Bears backfield. Just want a headache on this Sunday.
Yeah, Bears backfield. He says, yeah, Khalil Herbert.
Actually, no.
I haven't found myself to be on the Bears backfield at all, but I will say that they're going to be extremely low owned. More so because it feels like that backfield is really crowded with Herbert, Foreman, and their rookie, whose name is escaping me right now.
Roshan.
Yes, yeah, thank you. And then obviously the game environment is not good. While like we discussed with Aaron Jones, so I don't think Skimbo I'll be on any of those Bears running backs. And if I could play Lamar Jackson at running back, I definitely would. But yeah, interesting calls there. We'll give you some a minute or two to wake up. All right, guys, let's move on to wide receiver. Obviously a ton of options here. Quick? Yeah, absolutely.
It's balls deep.
What's up, BD?
Thoughts on Boban at running back?
Yeah. BD is our resident Boban truther.
Jacobs, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, BD.
Jacobs destroyed Denver last year a couple times. Any thoughts on him? Do you guys like him or no?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great call. His his ownership has been rising a little bit as of late, but it's still not to a point where I'm concerned at all. Getting him, it looks like it's going to be just a shade under 10%. I think some people might be scared off a little bit by like the contract dispute, him not coming into camp until pretty late. None of that stuff concerns me, to be honest. I think that Jacobs is a threat to get 20 plus touches every single week, and you really can't say that for more than 2 or 3 guys in the entire league, like maybe Nick Chubb, maybe Bijan Robinson and Derrick Henry, even guys like Eckler and McCaffrey. Like it's really rare that they're flirting with 20 touches. Josh Jacobs absolutely has 20 touch potential every single week. I think that's a great call. I don't think he's going to get played much. I think he's kind of getting lost in the shuffle here. And he is an afternoon game too, so leaves you some late swap ability for sure. So good call there, BD. Is there any other running backs you wanted to talk about before we move on to wide receiver?
I mean, I'm really chalky with all my exposure this week, but I do have a lot of Dobbins and Jacobs. I'm probably going to be double field on both. Only Dobbins because I know Lamar will come in chalky, and I just want to get the other rushing upside from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Dobbins is good leverage off of Lamar. And with Andrews, I'd mentioned this in the chat a couple times, but it's strange that Lamar loses his best pass catcher in Andrews, and somehow his ownership goes up. And I think it's pretty easily explained by the Ravens pass catchers now being in a much more desirable spot. So when people are playing the pass catchers, naturally the quarterback that is with them is going to get raised up in ownership. But I do think it is kind of a strange phenomenon where Lamar Jackson's spot clearly got worse with Andrews being out, but yet his ownership has raised. Now maybe against Houston that doesn't matter at all, but I like BD's thinking and going to Dobbins, who is going to be very low owned. We have him sub 3% right now, and if he steals a couple touchdowns away from Lamar, that's huge leverage off of Lamar, and then also huge leverage on the field because he's not going to get played. So I actually think that's a really great call for J.K. Dobbins and Josh Jacobs there. So good calls, BD. I like that. And then we got a question from Ekio. He's saying no permission, or he said no permission to talk. I can change that, Ekio. You've been in here for a while. I can give you the live stream. You may have to, and Ethan, I'm sorry, I just saw your message. You guys may have to, I believe you have you do. You may just have to leave and come back, and then I think you will be all set to go. But we'll answer Ekio's question, not talk about how much usage Jacobs got last year. I don't think he will have as good of a year. Thoughts on Deion Jackson and Madison? Yeah, so Deion Jackson, I have to admit, I don't think I'm going to be on Deion Jackson. He does project well, and he's not coming in with a lot of ownership. I just don't think this game really suits him that well. I mean, I think he'd really have to be involved in the passing game.
If I can make it there, I'll make it.
Nate? Are you there, Nate? All right, Nate just had a little a little singing action there. I'm just gonna mute him just for the time being. But so on Deion Jackson, yeah, I think he's gonna have to be involved in the passing game a lot in order to pay off. It is a cheap price tag, but I also don't have a ton of confidence in Anthony Richardson's ability to be like a great passer, especially early on in his career. So I will say Deion Jackson coming in low owned. If you need a cheap running back, I think you could do worse than Deion Jackson, but he's not someone that I'm like itching to play, if that makes sense. And then Madison, I'm actually glad you brought him up because I think Madison is in a great spot here. Obviously, they're at home, they're favored, have a good team total. I think a lot of people are going to be on the Kirk Cousins Jefferson stack, and Madison's getting some ownership too here. This is, decent ownership at 15%. So I do like him in a vacuum. I probably will be around the field in terms of ownership across my lineups. I'll probably be around 15%. But I do like him. I think this is a good spot. And actually on paper, I think Tampa Bay is more attackable through the ground than they are through the air. And Madison has potential to get, 15 touches or so. I do think the other guys will be mixed in, like Chandler and McBride. I think they'll be mixed in, but Madison should have a stranglehold on that backfield. So, yeah. And then our friend Josh, our moderator, DGen, and I know he asked about Rachaad White. We hadn't discussed Rachaad White yet, so thank you for bringing him up. Similar to Madison, I think the game environment is intriguing. I think Minnesota can get involved in these shootouts a lot. It's very possible that Tampa Bay is playing from behind. I expect Rachaad White to be used in the passing game, not exclusively, of course. Like they'll mix in some other people, but I do think White has potential for 15 touches, could sneak in the end zone. At sub 10%, I think he's very solid. Very solid. So, all right, we're running a little bit behind. I was planning to jump off at 8:30 here, so we'll go another 10 minutes or so. Let's get into wide receiver here, and we'll start with who do we want to start with? Ethan, are you here?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. What's going on, Ethan?
Hey, what's up? What's up?
All right. Do you want to get us started with wide receiver here? Do you have anyone that you like more than the field, or anyone that you like from an ownership perspective?
Wide receiver is interesting today because you got the top guys like Jefferson and Hill who are going to smash, but also be like very heavily owned. Some mid-range guys I like are sort of Ridley and Olave at 6,500. I think they're in good spots. And then you obviously got the cheapies. You got, Marvin Mims, Jaden Reed, Tutu Atwell, Elijah Moore, all of those guys that can really give you salary relief. So you can do a lot of things at wide receiver today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that those mid-range calls with Olave and Ridley are awesome. Both guys a little bit under 15%. So yeah, you're not paying too much for wide receiver, and I like especially Jacksonville's spot in Indianapolis. I don't think Indianapolis defense is very good, and playing in the dome, I really like this spot for Ridley. And I will mention too, just off of him for a little bit cheaper and a little bit less ownership, is Christian Kirk. I think both of those guys are in great spots. So if you're looking for a pair with your Lawrence stack, or even a bring back for your Anthony Richardson play, I think that you could do a lot worse than Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk. So yeah, I think those are great calls by Ethan. Thanks for jumping on with us, Ethan. And I'm getting my alarm here to let me know I should be getting off. So let's get through the rest of wide receiver here. Let's go. McBobo, do you have anyone you'd like to discuss as far as wide receivers go?
I just want to double down on Olave. I think he's done some great things in New Orleans. I think he's in a good spot to definitely get some big numbers today. So I'm definitely seconding Olave there. Same with Ridley. I got him with the stack. Trevor Lawrence, and the other wide receiver, looking at Mike Williams for the Chargers. I think
I think there's some good value there. I know Herbert's got a lot of pass catchers over there. Ball's going to get spread around, but I think for his price and for the potential, I think it's there. So he's one I'm going with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Mike. I mean, I like the Chargers offense as a whole. I think Mike Williams might even come in lesser owned than this, 12% that we're seeing here. The matchup on paper is tough for him. With the Dolphins do have some good outside corners, so that's why I think that it may come in lower owned than we're expecting. But yeah, 5,700 for Mike Williams, who has 100 yards and 2 touchdown potential. I think that's a really great call in an awesome game environment, like we already mentioned, has the highest total on the slate, 51 points. So yeah, I really like that Mike Williams call. Let's go to Skimbo. Skimbo, you got any wide receivers that you're liking? Skimbo might have gone back to sleep. Oh no, there he is.
Oh, good morning. I don't know. I don't know pricing and anything for the slate, but I kind of like. I think the Browns might make some noise today.
Yeah, I like the Browns quite a bit. I'll highlight Amari Cooper here. And really it stems from Deshaun Watson. I think Deshaun Watson is going to come in pretty low owned. And I like this Browns offense. Is an outdoor game. It is they are home at least, but against a division rival. So couple things working against them, but I like the ownership on these guys. I think you can get Watson to Cooper or Watson to Njoku pretty cheap, and then run it back with a Chase or a Higgins. I actually like that game stack quite a bit today. So let's go rapid fire here. BD, you got any wide receivers? Let's keep it to one wide receiver that you think does well today. If BD,
I'm loving Sutton.
Yeah.
Off the board guy. He should be lower owned.
Absolutely, yeah. We're showing about 15% for Sutton. I think this is increased with the news of Judy being.
Oh, that's pretty high. Never mind. Yeah.
Oh no, that's fine, BD. That's fine. I think I like that call a lot. I mean, he projects very well. 15% isn't like outlandish. You know what I mean? It's not something you want to avoid. I think it has been increasing a little bit just with the news of Jerry Jeudy being officially out. So on paper, Cortland Sutton looks great. It's a great matchup and potential for double-digit targets. He's a big touchdown threat. So yeah, I think that's a great call there. Did we get everyone? Michael, let's get you in here. Did you have any receivers you want to discuss?
Jonathan Mingo. I think we see some rookie-on-rookie bathtub time. I think we see it twice.
Wow. Okay, Jonathan Mingo. I didn't even think there was going to be 2 touchdowns in that Carolina-Atlanta game.
Oh, I mean, there's going to be 2, and they're going to be Domingo.
God, I love it. Actually, Mingo projects very similarly to these other guys, Reed, Atwell, Mims, and as far as our projections go. And then even a guy like Kendrick Bourne, a lot of these guys project just as good as Marvin Mims, Jaden Reed, Tutu Atwell, but they're coming with far less ownership. So, and I will mention too, off of BD's Sutton call, I think a lot of people are going to be playing Mims, and so Sutton is pretty decent leverage off of a really chalk piece that could fail. This is the rookie's first game, so maybe a little bit too much ownership in my opinion. But Jonathan Mingo, very interesting call there, and I can't argue with that. So if he gets 2 touchdowns today, then everyone go bombard Michael with some fire emojis or something. All right, let's get to we're gonna move on to tight end here. Stank, if you're still around, we should discuss these cheap tight ends. Obviously, Isaiah Likely and Luke Musgrave are going to project very well. They're going to come with some ownership. Do you like these guys, Stank, or are you trying to avoid them?
I mean, that's probably where I'm going at tight end. I'm probably punting the position and just hoping for the best. I think Musgrave, I like him. Packers, Watson's out, right? Is Dobbs playing? I'm not.
Dobbs is playing, but I don't think he'll be 100%.
So yeah, I mean, not a lot of competition for targets there, and he looked good in the preseason. I think he's gonna have a good game. We'll see though.
Absolutely, yeah. I think Musgrave should be pretty involved, even though he's a rookie in his first game as well. But yeah, like Stank said, no Watson, Dobbs not at 100%. So I think it'll be interesting to see his usage. And then Isaiah likely obviously has a great matchup. He's been very good whenever Andrews misses. So as far as the cheap end goes, those are kind of the players that everyone seems to be gravitating towards, and for good reason. I will mention some cheap pivots off of them. I think Hayden Hurst is in a good spot. Actually, only projects about 0.5 behind Musgrave, but you can get him at half the ownership. And then if you go up just a little bit, I think Hunter Henry is in a really interesting spot. He's a touchdown threat, less than 3% ownership. And then guys like Irv Smith, Chig, from the Titans, all of these guys in this 3.5 to 4K range, and maybe even a little bit above. These guys project pretty well, and they're not going to get played because Likely and Musgrave are $1,000 cheaper, and I get that. But from a tournament perspective, when you can pay up just a little bit more for players that have significantly less ownership and only slightly worse projection, I think that is a really good way to get different in tournaments. So if you're playing cash games, I think you need Likely. For sure, I think that would be like one of the starting points. But if you're playing tournaments, man, don't be afraid to get different, because especially we know tight ends can fail very easily. It's not uncommon at all for a tight end to get 4 targets and have 2 catches for 20 yards, and that can absolutely happen to Likely or Musgrave or any of these guys. So don't be afraid to get different, especially in tournaments. I think that's really important. All right, let's. East of Ethan said Debo, London, and Deontay all good spots in the 5K range for wide receivers. Yeah, I like all of those guys. So yeah, thank you. I know we brushed through wide receiver pretty quickly there. So thank you for bringing those guys up. Guys, I'll leave it up. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, what's up, Akio?
I was just gonna say, tight end wise, I do like Otten from the Buccaneers. Be a nice run back if you're going with the Jefferson chalk. And I'm guessing he's lesser owned than Goodwin and Evans. And he had a decent year last year.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Otten. We're projecting him for 1% ownership. So I should have mentioned him with those guys in the 3K range. He's in a good spot. We've talked about that. Game environment a lot already. The Minnesota Tampa Bay, Otten is not going to get played at all, and he's the type of guy who can go 3 for 30 and sneak in the end zone, gets you 13 points, and if you could do that, you're sitting really, really pretty. So yeah, I think Otten is a great call, and thanks for joining us, Akio. I'm glad you got the microphone situation figured out. All right, let's move on to. I know we kind of discussed defense, but we'll get through defense and then get out of here. Let's go, BD. If you're still here, how much Washington defense are you playing today?
I am playing basically like 3 defenses, Washington mostly. I do like the Chargers. Since I found out Armstead's gone. The splits for Tua are pretty bad when Armstead's out. I still think Hill is fine, but their offensive line's beat up, and they're pretty light on their offensive line.
Yeah, and the thing with defense too is a lot of times people think, oh well, we should attack defenses that are in low scoring games and aren't going to score a lot. It's I don't want to say it's the opposite, but how I think about it is you kind of want to play defenses in fast-paced games where there's going to be a lot of plays, because more plays leads to more opportunities for sacks and interceptions, any kind of turnovers. And a lot of times those lower scoring games or low-paced games are filled with a lot of runs. The defense doesn't really benefit from running plays as far as like the defensive fantasy scoring goes. So I actually think the Chargers that BD brought up, even though they're not going to project well, is a really interesting call. And he mentioned Armstead is out for the Dolphins too, and Dolphins splits without him offensively haven't been great. So we could see the Chargers, get a few sacks here, maybe get an interception or a defensive touchdown. They'll have a ton of opportunity to do it in this Miami game. So I actually think that's a really good call from BD. I like
Can
the
I add
Chargers
one more
as
quick
well.
thing?
Please do. Go ahead.
Jacksonville against Indianapolis. Indianapolis was the fastest paced team in the preseason by a lot. I really do think Jacksonville could throw up a huge number today against that rookie quarterback.
For sure. Yeah. And a lot of times, these guys, Anthony Richardson or like Justin Fields or even Jalen Hurts early on in his career, these primarily rushing quarterbacks take a lot of sacks. And that's because a lot of times they're breaking out of the pocket and they get tackled behind the line of scrimmage, like even for a yard or a half yard or whatever. That goes down as a sack. It does not go down as a rushing play. It doesn't go for rushing yards. It goes down as a sack. So a lot of times you can get really cheap sacks with these quarterbacks, and I like the idea of attacking the rookie Anthony Richardson in his first game. So I actually really like that Jacksonville call too. So nice work there, BD. Let's go to we'll get McBobo in here. McBobo, do you have any defenses you'd like to highlight?
Definitely was with Jacksonville. I think we talked about this before with the offensive side of it, that they're going to pretty much, I think they handle the Colts today on both sides of the ball. Other than that, I'm looking at, I see a Falcons defense I think has some potential today, and Seahawks is the other one I'm looking at. I don't think the Rams are going to be able to produce very well, and I think Seattle controls that game.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Atlanta too. You could see Carolina playing from behind there. So I think that's an interesting call. And then Seattle, I don't expect LA to be able to do anything really without Cooper Kupp. Even with Cooper Kupp, it might be a bit of a struggle. I think both great calls there by McBobo. All right, guys, that is pretty much it. I ran a little bit longer than I wanted to. It's the first week of the season, so we're all getting ready here. So I'm gonna jump out. I got a bunch of lineups to do. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream, and we'll be back again for. I might have time to do a live stream before tonight's game, but don't count on it. But I'll for sure be back for tomorrow night's Monday night game. So thank you all for tuning in, and thanks to the guys that joined me on voice chat here. And I wish you all good luck today.
Good luck.
Thanks,
Good luck, guys.
See you later.